Actually, welcome to UGC NET Criminology live lecture series 4. Here we are going with part 1 of lecture 4. In the previous lectures, we actually studied several important explanations of crime. We examined biological theories of crime. We have studied with psychological theories like social learning theories. We studied strain theories, ecological theories, also many other theories, and from many other schools and many other perspectives from where we have studied criminology. Most of these theories actually we already studied. It asked a simple it asked a common question. It is that why do people commit crime? We have actually addressed this question, why do people commit crime from various perspectives. But today we are going to approach crime from a different direction. From now we are going to ask questions like, why do most people not commit crime? This is a very important question. Why do most people not commit crime, but why do just certain individuals commit crime? Just think about it. Every day, like, many people experience anger, many people experience frustration, even financial pressure, even temptation, or even opportunities to break the law. Even all among us feel such pressure, even financial conditions, temptations, anger, and a ton of opportunities where we can break the law. But most of the people don't commit such serious offenses. Most of the people, we don't break the law. Why that what prevents most of the people, or what prevents most of the individuals from engaging in criminal behavior? Is it the fear of punishment? Is it the family which holding him or her back? Or is it morality? Maybe it is self-control, or attachment to the neighborhood and society. So these questions are the foundations of social control theories. So before beginning to before going in depth to the social control theory, I would like to ask our viewers, kindly please switch on to 1.5x for your better experience. So what is social control theory? Social control theories actually they argue that people are prevented from committing crime because they are connected to society through various relationships, through various values, various responsibilities, and with while engaging with various social institutions. When these all control become weak, when these relationships, these relations with these social institutions and these values, when these all becomes weak, then only deviant occurs, then only crime may occur, or then only an individual can go to a deviant way. So in today's lecture we will study various social control theories like drift theory, like neutralization theory, or even about containment theory and social bond theory. So by the end of this lecture you will be able to understand how you will be able to understand actually how social controls influence conformity, and why the weakening of this, or weakening of such social controls, may increase the risk of criminal behavior. So let's begin with our journey of social control theories. So let's understand the social control theory. Before studying individual theories, let us understand the basic idea of social control. So we have to understand what is actually social control. Without knowing the social control, we will not be able to understand the theories, the criminal theories which relates to social control. So social control actually refers to processes through which society encourage people to follow certain social norms, certain social values, certain social rules and laws. Societies actually it doesn't depend only on police or only on courts or even prisons or punishment. Society doesn't actually depend on only on prison, police, court or punishment. Many people follow rules even though there is no authority watching them. In general, you can see that in let's go to a certain area, maybe in rural areas, there is no authority who will be looking at you, but most of the people there are not criminal. Maybe 99.99% are, or 99.99999% are not criminal there. For another example, a student may return a lost wallet even when nobody is present. Someone can actually return something valuable he found on the street to the police station or to a social service center or any shop he knows. He can or she can return it. But why it is? Maybe it is because of his or her moral values, maybe because of family upbringing, maybe because of his or her honesty, empathy, or maybe fear of disappointing parents or his acquaintances. Also, there can be something like respect for social rules. So these forms the social control. These all forms what we call as social control. So two major types of social control are there. There are actually two types of social controls. One is informal social control and one is formal social control. What is informal social control? It operates through ordinary social relationships like with family, with parents, teachers, with friends, neighbors, with the whole community, maybe with religion, even with customs, and with various informal social approval and disapprovals. For example, a child may avoid misconduct because the child do not want to disappoint parents, or he or she maybe do not want to disappoint his teachers. There may be no police officer present, but a social relationship influence behavior even without the presence of police officer or some authority who will be looking into it. Okay, so this is the social fabric or social bonding or social relationship and respect for social values for which people do not commit crime. So these are all what we call as informal social controls. These are all like family, parents, teacher, friends, neighbors, community, religions, customs, social approval and disapproval. These all are informal social control. Informal social control. Now let's go to formal social controls. What can be formal social controls? This can be exercised through various official institutions, like by law, by police, or even by courts, even with prison systems, maybe with various correctional institutions, and also with government institutes. For example, a person may avoid drunken driving because he can see there are often legal penalties. You can see police enforcement vehicles waiting there on his way while he is coming back from work. So on that particular way, he will avoid drink and driving. He will avoid drunken driving. Okay, so here he loses the possibility of getting caught or being deviant, because he knows that someone is there to check whether he is drunk or not. The police is there, the enforcement is there to check whether he is drunk or not. So this is what is called formal social control. The central idea of this is that social control theory is strong social controls actually promote conformity, while weak social control may increase the possibility of deviance. So, but even though we have come up with a conclusion about the social control, different scholars explain this control in different ways. So there are various theories on social controls, therefore we are going with 4 theories. Let's begin with our first theory, that is drift theory. What is drift theory? So drift theory is associated with 2 proponents, that is David Matza and Gresham Sykes. We have to remember these 2 names. What are the 2 names? One is David Matza and another is Gresham Sykes. David Matza and Gresham Sykes. So they developed these ideas mainly to explain juvenile delinquency. Earlier theories actually sometimes suggested that delinquent youths they belonged completely to a criminal or deviant culture, as we have learned about subculture theory and even differential association theory. There we learned that these earlier theories actually explain that the youth criminal culture or criminal behavior is related to various deviant culture and belonging to various cultures. But Matza and Syke actually they disagreed with such theories. They argued that many young offenders are not permanently committed to crime. They said that they are not permanently committed to crime. Instead, they move between conventional and delinquent behavior. They just move from here and there like a fluid. Okay, they move from here and there like from delinquent behavior to normal behavior like fluids or like in gaseous states. Okay, just for analogy, I am saying that state of matter either fluid or a gaseous state. Okay, so the central idea of Matza and Sykes is that youths mainly move from one state to another. They are not permanently into the crime, or they are not permanently in the way of committing into crime. Neither they are permanently into the law abiding state. They just move from here and there. This movement is called drift. So this is called drift theory. So meaning of drift. Drift means it is actually a conformity. It is a way between conformity and delinquency. It is the balance or ways how people move in between conformity and delinquency. A young person may actually, he or she may actually behave with responsibility at home. He or she may behave in a very much responsible way at home, or maybe attend school and respect family members, as well as follow social rules in a social setting. But under certain circumstances, the same person may commit into vandalism. He or she may go into fighting. He or she may go with some kind of minor theft, or maybe group misconduct, or maybe substance related delinquency. So therefore delinquency may not always be permanent. It is actually temporary. Delinquency is actually temporary. It is situational, and it may be also occasional. So delinquency, as per Sykes and Matza, they are temporary, they are situational, and they are occasional. For example, imagine a college student who normally attend classes, and he actually follows the rules. One day the student joins some friends in damaging a public property. After there are certain circumstances, maybe due to peer pressure, he actually joins the other students after a heated event. The student is not necessarily a permanent criminal. Actually, he has never committed a deviant act before. The student may have actually in that case maybe he is actually temporarily drifted into delinquent behavior because of peer influence, because of group pressure, because of maybe excitement, or maybe weak supervision, or maybe by a particular situation. So later the student may, he can again return, he can again return to his conventional behavior, he can again return to his normal behavior after that delinquent act. So main idea of drift theory is many young people are neither completely law abiding nor completely criminal. So this is in between. The central idea of drift theory is that many young people are neither completely law abiding nor they are completely criminal. So everyone is in between them. So now let's ask a question: why does drift occur? Let's ask the question: why does drift occur? Drift may actually become possible when social controls are temporarily weak. There are actually weak social controls, when peer pressure is actually very strong, when supervision is actually absent or almost there is no supervision, and when the individuals find a justification, he or she finds a justification of the wrongdoing. There can be other reasons, like the person believes that the act is acceptable for a particular situation. He or she when believes that this act is actually permitted for that particular situation. So this brings us to second part of the theory. What is the second part of the theory? The second part of this theory is neutralization. Okay, so we will now go with neutralization. We have come to neutralization for what? As we learned about drift or how drift become possible, let's go to neutralization. So neutralization theory, it explained how offenders temporarily they suspend or weaken their moral values, how they actually at sometimes they get suspended from, temporarily suspended from moral value, or they actually sometimes temporarily come up with suspension of moral controls. So why this happens? This justification that they come just for a while to commit a offense, in most of the time they are normalized. This justification actually reduce the feeling of guilt. It actually reduce the feeling of guilt, and this is the process that called neutralization. Like just concentrate on it, please, because this is a very delicate concept. You have to understand it with a very open mind. Drift is when people go from a delinquent way to conformity way. The pendulum motion from drift to from delinquent way to conformity, this is called drift. And what is neutralization? Neutralization is the feeling, the situation when people feel that they just been to deviant way for a while. Most of the time they are in a good way, they behave in a good way, they are law abiding. So this is the justification of them, that they are going to go on that way just for a while. Most of the time they are in a normal way. So this is how they justify the act of being deviant, and this process is called neutralization. The person actually doesn't necessarily reject society's moral values completely. Instead, the person temporarily actually neutralize these values. He or she just for a while neutralize his values and do some tasks which shouldn't he be doing, and come back to the moral values. So according to experts, there are 5 techniques of neutralization. There are 5 techniques of neutralization according to experts. So what are they? They are denial of responsibility, denial of injury, denial of victim, condemnation of the condemner, and appeal to higher authority. So let's go with them one by one with certain examples. So first, coming with denial of responsibility. What is denial of responsibility? When the offender says after committing something that it was not my fault, I'm sorry, but it was not my fault because my friend has forced me. It's not my fault. Someone forced me, and then I'm sorry, I had no choice. So if someone says like this after committing an offense, the person actually shifts the responsibility to other people. He just shifts the act of the responsibility of his offense to someone else, like to his friend or to his someone he knows, or someone XYZ, to someone else, maybe to some situations, like saying that I had no choice. So this is what we call denial of responsibility. This is the first technique of neutralization, that is denial of responsibility. Coming to the next, if you want, I can give you another example of denial of responsibility. It can be like if a student in an examination, let's say in your university examination, a student actually caught cheating, and he can say that, what, I'm caught, but okay, can't you see everyone is sitting there, everyone is sitting, so I'm also sitting. So this can be a like funny excuse, but this is what we call as denial of responsibility. He can just simply say everyone is sitting, so I'm sitting too. You see, that's a funny escape, but this is what we call denial of responsibility. Let's go to number 2, that is denial of injury. When we say denial of injury, when the offender sometimes say, what, I did something, yes, but no one is harmed. No one is harmed by my act. It was only a very small loss. The company is so rich, so it doesn't matter whatever I did to it, or whatever I did, it was very minor for them. So he actually denies. He denies the injury, or minimize, or says that the harm is so minimum. So the offender actually here, in denial of injury, the offender believes that the act may have caused very little or no harm. Now, let me give you an example. Someone, like, there are a lot more pirated websites, and someone may download some movies from such pirated websites, and he or she is watching, and when some person complains about it, what he says, what, yeah, I downloaded it, but what can I do? No one is suffering because of it. I downloaded it because it's available on the internet, but no one is suffering. No one is there who suffers because of it. So this is what is called denial of injury. So we have learned these two concepts, denial of responsibility and denial of injury. Let's move ahead with another concept, that is denial of victim. What is denial of victim? When the offender actually says victim deserves it. It's a very, for me personally, I think this is a very nonsense way for a offender to react, and very, sometimes I can say very ignorant way even, or very upsetting way. When someone says the victim deserves it, he cheated me first, he or she insulted me, so I I did this to her, or I did this to him. So the offender here actually he justifies by act by how? By blaming the victim. He in this time he actually or she actually blames the victim. Now let's go with one example with that. A person who is actually assaulting someone, he may say that, or she may say, what, yeah, I did assaulted him, but because he actually provoked me, so whatever he got, he actually deserved it. So this is the excuse. So this excuse is called denial of the victim. This is called denial of the victim in neutralization theory of crime. Let's move ahead with number 4 point of us, that is condemnation of the condemners. What is condemnation of the condemners? Here the offender actually says the police are very corrupt. Politicians commit bigger crimes. They may say like, why they are blaming me when most of the powerful people also do some things like what I have done. So here the offender he or she shifts the attention away from his personal wrongdoing and criticize the authorities. So this is what condemnation of the condemners. He or she condemns the condemners. So this is number 4. And lastly, number 5, we will find one other thing, that is appeal to higher loyalties. And what is appeal to higher loyalties? Here the offender says, I did it for my friends. I had to protect my group. Loyalty to my community is most important for me. So he or she would say something like that, like, I did it for my friend, I had to protect my group, or I had to protect my family, or loyalty to my community is more important. I am doing it for my community. So this can be words what we can term as appeal to higher authority. Examples of it can be like a person who may who may do any kind of offense, like say picking up something from a shop, and he can just say, he can just justify his that I did it because my friend needed it, and I couldn't betray my friend. Wow, my friend need it, and if I don't give it, I will be betraying my friend, so I am lifting it from the shop. Wow, what an excuse. So this is called appeal to higher loyalties. A bit complex, okay, and all these are very difficult to remember, because you see these are very common words, okay, responsibility, injury, victims, condemners, or loyalty, but when at the time of examination, and when you will get 4 or 5 options on UGC NET paper, you will find it very difficult which one is correct and which one is not, because these are very common words. So to remember it, you can just go through this RIVCL, that is responsibility, injury, victim, condemners, and loyalty. RIVCL, remember it as RIVCL. So there is various contribution of drift and neutralization theory. This theory actually helps us to understand juvenile delinquency. It helps us to understand peer group offending, or temporary criminal behavior among persons. Also how people justifies, how groups misconduct, and we can also say that some situational deviance can also be explained through drift and neutralization theory. This theory also explains why some offenders do not consider themselves as bad people. Some offenders actually always go with, I'm good, I did it because of this, I did it because of them. So they don't consider themselves as bad people. They may accept society's values but temporarily justify a particular act. So that is what drift and neutralization theory. If we go with criticism of this theory, we can find that there are various limitations in this theory. Like this theory may explain how offenders justify crime, but it actually doesn't always explain why the crime occurred in the first place. This theory actually doesn't say why crime occurred in the first place. Yes, the crime occurred, I had to go and do this because of this, because of that, but this theory explains this all, okay? But it does not say, this theory doesn't explain why crime has occurred, why one has to do that. It doesn't explain that in the first place. Some offenders may be they may create some justifications only after committing the offense. They don't say that I'm going to do this because of that. No, they don't say that. They say that after they commit that crime. They are not going to say that I am going to do that because of this. No. Most of people, most of the offenders, most of such offenders do not say. They say only like this, that I have done it because of this. After committing the crime, they say it. So therefore, drift and neutralization may sometimes be a post-crime excuse rather than a cause. It can be termed as a post-crime excuse than a pre-crime excuse. So this is drift and neutralization theory. So if you want, I can go with another theory, that is containment theory. But whatever today we learned, it is actually heavy. So if you find it very heavy, I can just leave it for the next lecture. Okay, we'll study about containment theory in part 2 of this lecture. So that's all, and thank you for watching. And if you like our videos, please subscribe to Gyanonymous channel and share the video if you want. And thank you. Jai Hind. Vande Mataram.